All right, everyone, I'm coming to you from the past. We taped this the previous week because we are at E3 right now, and in a matter of hours, you'll start seeing a beautiful deluge of content. Today, assuming it's Monday, will be all the very important and interesting announcements that are coming from the multiple press conferences, most note Sony and Microsoft. So keep on coming back and check out all the videos because we are working our butts off. In the meantime, let's talk about the one thing that we won't be talking about this week, but is still, I think, hopefully present on all your minds, and that is the recent or upcoming release of The Last of Us. I recently reviewed it. If you have not seen the review, go check that out and then come back because it's a game that is quite remarkable. It's something I still haven't gotten out of my head, and it's been about 2.5 weeks since I finished playing it. The first thing I wanted to point out, as many of you have, I suddenly gave 2 5 out of 5s back to back, and I was aware of that. I would have reviewed other games in the interim from BioShock Infinite to The Last of Us, but a travel schedule that has been a little crazy never gave me enough time to sit down in front of a television and play a game until Last of Us made itself available. Now, with that in mind, I want to reiterate that there's something so interesting that's happening in this game, and you see elements of it in BioShock Infinite, but I think because of the more traditional narrative structure out of The Last of Us, it is more apparent, and that is the way in which story and gameplay feels so fully integrated. It is a very dark story. There's a sense of desperation that really surrounds the entire experience. And from that, when you're suddenly playing the game, the circumstances under which you're playing and the way it's been informed by the story that precedes it adds to that level of desperation. You do try to be stealthy, it does not always work out, and suddenly it kicks into overdrive, and you're just trying to survive, and that really allows that violence to be so horrific because it's desperate. It's the actions of a borderline crazy person that just wants to stay alive for a little bit longer. This is a synergy that has gotten close in many, many other games I've played, but I don't think anything has really accomplished it this much. And I think it is an effect of the mood, a very elegant balance between when it cuts to story, when it goes back to gameplay, and giving the player enough choice in the combat scenarios to feel that they are continuing that story past the point when they don't have any control. And there's other wonderful small touches when you get to play this game, and I'm not giving anything away. Listen to the ambient dialogue. This can be one of the most disruptive elements in any game out there when bad things are happening or bad things just happened and you have some character who acts oblivious to the horrors that just preceded. That is not the case here. When Joel and Ellie are getting along, you'll hear things that Joel says that are reflective of that, and other times when they're not getting along, he'll just talk to himself. They will not be communicating. It's an incredibly small, subtle touch, but it's those things in a game that make all the difference. Now, the thing that I still find most interesting, and I hope will be the point of discussion going forward, is the game fun? It is a dark, dark story. The violence is very, very unpleasant, and I think for you guys that don't have to get through it in a timeline as I did, you'll want to put it down a little bit and walk away, because it has a very strange residual effect. Is that fun? I don't know. But I like the fact that there's a game that I don't like to ascribe that adjective to, because that's another evolution of where games are going. There's a lot of movies, like Michael Haneke's Amour, which I would not classify as fun. I'm not, hey, let's go see about old people die, and this should be a hoot. No, that doesn't happen. Same thing with books, and that's also true of music. If anyone's had to sit down and listen to John Zorn, you're not going, oh, this is going to be a blast. It's a roller coaster ride of dissonance and cacophony. That's good. This is a good thing. It obviously will probably keep some people away from the experience, and that's completely understandable, but games can start to tackle things in interesting ways that are not based upon exhilaration. Of course, that does make us question if we really want to use the word game anymore. You don't usually engage in a game unless you're trying to derive some pleasure out of it. And I think there is pleasure in experiencing things that are not pleasant, but it's a wonderful statement as we're closing down this generation of games that we're seeing that maturity. I think we're seeing an aging in the people who are making these games to address things and feelings and experiences that are not all about power and the thrill of being better than someone else. All right, question times. This is from Chris Phelps 1994. Hi, Adam. In your opinion, how much does the hardcore community actually matter in the development on the next generation consoles? I don't consider myself a hardcore gamer, but it seems to me that large profits from Microsoft and Sony come from things like Call of Duty and FIFA, etc. So as I see people on the internet express discontent over announcements and pieces of news coming to light, I wonder how much of our opinions really matter in the long run. Thank you. P.S. You guys rock. And you do too, Mr. Phelps. I really like this question, especially because E3 is happening right now. And let's address kind of the two aspects of this. So there's FIFA and Call of Duty. That was obviously shown at the announcement of the Xbox One, and hardcore gamers understandably felt very alienated by those two games. Those two franchises being some of the largest selling franchises year to year to year to year. Why are those games important? Well, both of them have large multiplayer components, and I think their success is based on if my friend is playing Call of Duty and I want to play with him, well, I better get Call of Duty as well. Same thing for FIFA. This is a very big deal, especially in Europe, where people love the sport of football. Once again, they have a broad reach, and a lot of people may only play one of those two games in a given year. Maybe they get one other. Those are not what we would term hardcore gamers. Hardcore gamers are very important, and they're very important right now because they will be the early adopters of a new console. When a new console is launched, it will be at the most expensive price possible, and you're going to see the initial consumers be those that plan to have a long-standing relationship with the system, and they will be the ones that will be buying the new games, that will be helping establish the new IPs that will become dominant in that generation. And in that regard, the hardcore gaming community is very important, and I would like to think that Sony and Microsoft are cognizant of that. I think I really had questions if Microsoft was understanding who was tuning in on that Tuesday to see the announcement of the Xbox One, because they were not speaking to a hardcore demographic whatsoever. I think they were definitely assuring people who are analysts that can say, hey, they might be doing the right thing. But that hardcore gaming community, which will become the initial evangelists for the system, were not addressed. Sony, I think, did a better job, but because they were so light on specifics other than what was inside of the system, that's something that they're gonna have to be addressing today at E3 to really show that those games that they make, those wonderful in-house divisions, are still cognizant of what we as perpetual hardcore gamers are going to want to see, which is something innovative, something new, and something that isn't just shooting people in the face. Hardcore is important now. We will start to feel alienated all over again in about 5 years from both Sony and Microsoft while they try to expand their reach. The costs come down on the consoles and people will start to buy it for reasons other than just games, entertainment, or whatever. One thing to really keep your eye out for is how that core group of gamers are going to be buying a lot of stuff starting probably November of this year, how they are being served, being addressed, and being respected. Now that I have your attention, let's talk about what we have coming up from E3 today. Today is Monday, June 10th. It's the press conference day. It starts with Microsoft. It then is going to go to EA, then Ubisoft, and it's going to close out with Sony. I will be attending all 4 of those conferences in person, and I'll be giving you my thoughts as soon as I walk out of the theater or hall or wherever it's taking. We're going to have Max and Tara, who are back at our home base, who will also be giving their impressions of what they're seeing. So you're going to be seeing rolling content throughout the day and our thoughts on how both game companies and console manufacturers are going to be presenting themselves. So stay around, stay tuned. It's only just starting.